Hey, Billy, you know what's awesome?
What's that?
The villains.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, if you read Shakespeare, because we're a high-minded podcast, the villains were people you didn't want to be. They were really bad people.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be around them. They were horrible. And Shakespeare made a whole lot of money by making perfect villains, by making villains the people you didn't want to be around. And then, like, several hundred years later, here comes George Lucas. So anyway, welcome to the What's Awesome podcast. We're going to talk about why we root for the bad guys now.
Yeah.
Because it used to be bad guys weren't something that you rooted for. You ran away from them. You really hoped your hero was able to kill them. You didn't care about their backstory because whatever backstory they might have was irrelevant. They were just some mean sons of guns that you wanted stabbed in the face and dead. So that they were no longer bad guys. And they're just taking a dirt nap. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Good. It's another quarantine kind of time.
It still is. If you would have asked me how this was going to go, if I had a bet, it would not have been like this. There might have been, people with guns and gas masks in the street. There might have been, but people arguing about whether or not they could get a haircut was not on my list of things that was going to happen during this global pandemic of it's just I imagine people in the Black Death.
Well,
they're like, well, my dad's leg turned black. Can the sheriff's like, but the bakeries are closed. Like, thou shalt not have bread.
Right.
Like, wait, what? How does this work?
You can go to Wendy's, but they're not selling hamburgers anymore. So, it's just like, why do you go to Wendy's if you're not going to get a hamburger, right? I mean,
it's bizarro world. Yeah. It really is. Like it's like everything's spelled backwards, and everything that is different than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why we started this here podcast. Yeah. Because there was a time, call it the 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, whatever, because there was awesome things across all of those decades. I was born halfway through the 70s, so I can't really speak to the 60s except for Jimi Hendrix is awesome. There's a lot of awesome that came out of the 60s. I wasn't there, but we'll talk about it at some point. But today we're going to talk about the bad guys, the villains.
Yeah.
And why we want to dress up as those guys and go on Halloween and be like, I'm the bad guy.
I mean, even when you think of it as when you're a kid, I mean, you played cowboys and Indians. Well, somebody had to be the Indians, right? And most times kids wanted to be the Indians.
Sometimes they got elected.
Right.
Like, you're going to be the bad guy.
Dressing up like a pirate for Halloween, dressing up like a vampire or any of those things. Yeah, it's funny how even as a kid, there's something that pulls you to the dark side, right?
Exactly. Well, we're going to get started with this in just a couple minutes. You got to give us a chance to get our notes together. In the meantime, take a listen to this message from our sponsors. Whatever sponsor it is, because we're live now. These are our editors, our producers that cut these things in. So buy whatever product or service that is on in the break, and then we'll see you on the other side, and we'll tell you it's still good. Hopefully it's not asbestos though, because that's not good.
That's bad.
We'll see you in a minute.
Who's the big guy with the muscles?
He's He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Skeletor is his enemy.
If He-Man, Skeletor, and Castle Grayskull, you have to put the castle together.
You're doomed, He-Man.
Oh, yeah? Watch this action, Dad. Now I have the power.
He-Man and Skeletor each sold separately. Castle Grayskull also sold separately from the Masters of the Universe collection from Mattel.
All right, so what's your first memory of the bad guy? Like not the bad guy that you wanted to be, but the bad guy that was bad. You didn't want to be that guy.
I'm gonna have to go. You were kind of saying it earlier with the Lucas thing, but the one that really stood out to me was probably Vader back in the day. I would have been a whopping 7 years old at that point. Now, my heroes were a different level because you had Bruce Lee and all these guys, but they didn't really have villains, right? Like your straight up bad guy villain. So I would have to say Vader is probably that first, that's the bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's probably where it started for me.
I'm gonna have to say the same. Like just full black with the cape.
Yeah.
No
mistaking.
Not whether or not he's got the breathing apparatus, you just know when you see him that he's up to no good.
Yeah.
There's no getting around this guy. He's not a nice guy. And that's what I said in our pre-roll is that prior to probably Vader, like the bad guy was just somebody who was going like he may be sympathetic, but nobody rooted for the bad guy.
Right.
Nobody wanted to be the bad guy on Halloween. If you were gonna be the bad guy, then you were either kind of parodying the bad guy. You were like, okay, maybe you're a vampire, like I'm Dracula, la 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 la.
Right.
But you were not going to try to dress up and be Dracula. You
Right.
weren't dressing up and being Frankenstein. Like, okay, with Vader, it was like, okay, whatever. Before they kind of messed him up later, it's like, what is he? Is he a robot? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he a guy in a suit? Like, what is Vader? Because you didn't really know. They never told you until midway through Empire.
Yeah.
And then even then, it was kind of vague until.
Well, you didn't know if it was true or not. That was the mystery of it.
Yeah. And this is a world populated with robots that are extremely adept. Mm-hmm. So Vader could have been a robot. You didn't know.
Yeah. He
could, Obi-Wan said that, or Ben said that Anakin was killed by Vader, so you knew he was a badass.
Right.
Later on, you're like, oh, it was the same guy, but like do those mental calisthenics. But whatever, dude. We're not going to go too deeply into Star Wars lore. It was just like, but Vader was a costume.
Yeah.
Vader, if you got voted to be, like you said, Cowboys and Indians could overlay Star Wars very easily.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you got voted to be Vader, okay, cool. Then I am resident badass. I will kill everybody except for the last man standing, and you better hope that you're a better sword fighter than me with our PVC pipes or our sticks or whatever.
Right.
Vader was somebody to aspire to.
Right.
It takes some training, and it takes some concentration, and it takes some equipment to be Vader. You don't just wake up one day and be Darth Vader.
Right. And I think it's, like you said, is probably the mystery of not knowing is what made it so intriguing, too. Which, when you think about, I'm sure as we go along, some of our horror bad guys that end up being people we root for the first part, it's always because of the mystery of you don't know enough about them. The mystery of it is what pulls you in, and then we end up just ruining it, just like we did with Vader.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that because Vader was such an integral part of life. It's like I didn't care like who he was as a child. I wanted to know what those buttons on his chest did. It's like, okay, is he fighting on level 1 mode and he pushed one of those buttons and like went to level 6 and he's just a super badass? Well, obviously. Because if you look at the way he fought in Star Wars and the way he fought in Rogue One, you're like, well, he must have just hit a button and just like really just knocked it out of the park.
Man, Rogue One. I mean, it's just the best example of what he could have been throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome.
Have you seen that video of that girl watching the end of Rogue One?
Yeah.
She's crying at the end, and then the extended scene comes on, and she's like, "What is this, dude?" I'm watching her react to what's on screen, and like I'm tearing up because it is that awesome. The end of Rogue One was so good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and
it's like the same guys with the long backed helmets.
Sure,
like those poor guys had no chance.
No chance.
It's so cool.
And if you want to know what the box does that's on Vader's chest, just go back and watch Phantom of the Paradise, because that's where Lucas kind of took that idea, which was the Phantom's voice box, right? When he would speak, it would light up, and they kind of made their own little version of that. And I think Lucas has loosely said, that was part of the inspiration for that. So, kudos to my movie, man, Phantom of the Paradise. It's the best.
There's a lot of it's funny because love Star Wars like everybody else. Star Wars is only as good as the sum of its parts, because there's not an original idea in there. It's just a whole bunch of really good ideas put together really well.
Yep. Right.
Which was
now jumping out of that, my next bad guy that I actually had an appeal for was actually Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor in the Superman movie, because this was because of the fact of growing up in the comics and watching Super Friends in the morning. Lex Luthor was this cold, stern, matter-of-fact guy, but we've replaced him with Gene Hackman, and you can't help but like him. I mean, as terrible as he is, you're like, he's in my mind, Gene Hackman will always be Lex Luthor.
I agree with that. I agree with that strongly. I think it's funny because I was never a big fan of Lex Luthor as a villain,
right? Very
much, because kind of like you said, was Saturday Morning Cartoons episode where we talked about how Superman can just
do anything,
Superman could just breathe real hard, and Lex Luthor would just be like splattered against the wall.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of artistic license why Lex Luthor even exists in comic world at all, even through the 50s and 60s. Not even now, where they turned him into kind of a dark side Batman, which is really weird. I don't know if you've kept up with that.
Well, I was gonna say, think of the whole idea of Batman versus Superman. It's the same mentality of Batman had to use his smarts to figure out a way to beat him. Same thing with Lex Luthor. So I mean, it's just kind of a prerequisite of being able to do that. And I mean that's weird how that's actually, you can tell that's kind of the thought process behind that.
but stay on that Superman's trip, or Superman Super Friends. Black Manta.
Oh yeah.
Was always like Aquaman was never one of my favorite characters, but Black Manta was one of my favorite villains. I've always, ever since watching Jaws, actually starting at Jaws 3, backing it up to Jaws 2, like watching them in reverse. Because I saw Jaws 3 first. Of all the movies, I saw Jaws 3.
Crazy.
And living in my little house in outside of Corpus, we got cable TV. They hooked it up. They gave us the little manual, and on the cover of the manual was that shark attacking the skiers. And I was like, God, I've got to see this. This is amazing, because I love sharks. I was so and we moved to the beach. Like, there was a beach out there, and I was obsessed. We'd go to the library, I'd check out every book on sharks. I was like 8, 9 years old. I could tell you about how the biorhythms inside of a shark's nervous system worked.
Yep.
I mean, like, I could just quote it. I was so obsessed with sharks because of Jaws.
Sure.
Jaws 3.
I went through that too.
And so Jaws 3, then my dad recorded Jaws 2 off of cable. or TV off of Channel 13.
Right.
Like he edited out the commercials for the first half and then like fell asleep. So there's commercials for the second half. And so, but Jaws attacking the bunch of boats that are tied together because whatever.
Yeah.
Like
and
then
we'll have to do a Jaws episode because man,
dude,
I mean, come
talk
on,
about Jaws forever.
Right?
But man, so watch Jaws, love Jaws. The kind of lost my train of thought there, but where did I lose it? Black Manta.
Yeah.
The scuba diver.
Right.
Being underwater and like just his outfit, his wetsuit,
he looked cool.
His armor, his helmet. He looked awesome. And then I also thought because back then they used to show these pictures of divers and they'd have these helmets on and the helmets would open up just to the front. But Black Manta had the big old bug eyes.
Yeah.
He could be able to see the wide range. And man, like I was like, man, I want to be that guy when I grow up. I really do. Like whatever. Like I don't care if he's a bad guy. Right. I want his outfit. I want his gear. I'm there, and
it's funny because when you go back and look at those, if you look at the lineup of the bad guys in Justice League or Super Friends, whichever it was, he was the coolest looking one as far as the bad guys, hands down. I mean, everybody else was just a bunch of bald-headed dudes with electrodes stuck on their heads, or he was definitely the coolest looking.
Well, even in the Aquaman movie, because I was telling my wife, because we watched it just recently, it's kind of funny because I love Jason Momoa. Don't get me wrong. Jason Momoa is awesome.
Sure.
He does not look like Aquaman.
No.
The guy who played Ocean Master looks like Aquaman.
Right.
And that's...
Yeah.
like they should have switched him because Jason Momoa looked more like Ocean Master and but man, they did not skimp even for a little bit on Black Manta. Black Manta delivered.
It's the best. It's the best part of the movie. I'm just going to say that.
Black Manta was awesome. And when he gets busted up and he keeps coming back, and he's just like, when he blows up his own helmet, he's like, I gotta get a bigger helmet. And he like makes the big nice. I was like, oh my god, that's my childhood right there. Like, because he was making this little tiny little helmet. And I was like, oh come on, because they do that in comic book movies, where like, it's what it's supposed to look like, but then they just kind of shimmy away. The process of getting there,
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's. I don't have much good to say about that movie, but I did think Black Manta looked really good.
I enjoyed it, but I was still playing on my phone. I was like, okay.
I got real disconnected, man. When they get in the ship to go fast underwater, but it's still full of water, I'm like, what's the point of having a ship? Right? I mean, why does it have glass in it if you're going to still be in water?
When they're supposed to fly as fast as Superman, but then they can't, so then they just get on a boat.
Yeah. It's just
like, they can swim to the other side of the world, but then they get on a boat to fly to sail to the other side of the world, like to the trench. I'm like, what are you? I know there's.
Anyways,
this is not an awesome episode. We could talk about an episode of Super Friends for longer, because the thing that looked like Black Manta's helmet that was their base that came up out of the swamp, that thing is awesome. I want one of those, like a hydraulic base that kind of floats up out of the swamp.
My next bad guy. Maximilian from Black Hole.
That's a good one.
Scared the crap out of me, man. Especially when he killed Anthony Perkins. Man. I mean, I think we're seeing a trend here, except for Lex Luthor, but the expressionless looks the same when he kills you as if he's saying hi to you. which ties in again to our fascination with a certain genre of movies.
Right.
You know, it's funny you start putting all these things together. Vader had no expression, only vocally. You take the voice away, it makes it even scarier.
You watch those old videos of David Prowse voicing Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And he's like a polite British guy.
Right.
And it just doesn't work.
Right.
He's just like, you're a part of the Rebel Alliance and a spy. And he's in Darth Vader's outfit, and you're like, dude, you need to have a cup of tea,
right,
and a big old mustache on outside of your respirator. Like, something's just not right. And then they get James Earl Jones in there, and he's just so. I mean, James Earl Jones is aged, and he's aged well, but even in Conan, like.
I was about to say, you want to talk about a good bad guy?
He just, when he speaks, you listen.
Right.
Dude, when you watch The Sandlot, the fact that they cast Darth Vader in The Sandlot as far as like the untouchable zone, like that guy, the old blind guy that we can't talk to,
right,
with the mean ass dog, and like at the end, they're conquering Darth Vader. I mean, it was one of those things that, like, it took me getting older to realize, like, oh my God, they could have cast any old guy in that role, really.
Yeah.
But they put Darth Vader in there.
Right.
Oh,
wow. So what comes to mind to you? Who's some villains that, from early on, leading up, that you kind of think or just stand out to you?
Well, I kind of think I kind of came up in the age of the villain, because other than Darth Vader and, with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, you didn't know if he was good or bad. He didn't say anything. He had like 12 words through 2 movies, and then he croaked.
Yeah.
So, but there's this mythos built up around him. Is he a good guy gone bad? Is he a bad guy who's worse? Like, is he just in it for the the mystery? Like, who is this guy?
Yep.
But when I was a little kid, there's kind of the trifecta of bad guys. It was like Skeletor, Cobra Commander, and Megatron.
Yeah.
And 3 different toy lines that came out. And I'm going to say that of the 3, the one that grabbed me the most was G.I. Joe, because probably because of articulation. You could do much more with those guys, and they had much more
yeah,
because Transformers, once you transformed them, like they were a car.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got cars. You transform them into a robot, their legs didn't move around because they had to be transformable. So it's like it's a robot. ... With G.I. Joe, they actually could move and do stuff.
Yeah, you even had elbows for the most part. I mean,
you could put their gun out sideways. You could point it the other way, like whatever you wanted to do.
They had all the joints in them like the Micronauts did. Micronauts are the first figures that I saw that you could bend in all those ways, and the great figures. Not what we're talking about, but still fantastic figures.
Well, that's the thing, is because you had, again, Cobra Commander. I don't know, I was probably too little to really pay attention, but it's funny because my buddy, my old bass player in my old band, he's got a whole bunch of old He-Man guys and some Star Wars guys and stuff in a box. I lost mine along the way. I've rebought mine. The ones that I have, I've rebought. I don't have any of my old stuff.
Yeah.
He's got his old stuff, and I've kind of nudged at him like, hey man, you want some of your you got some. He's like, man, I never got the bad guys. I didn't want to be a bad guy. I only got the good guys. Or for whatever reason. I'm like, dude, I always liked the bad guys because I didn't really care too much about their ethics. They just looked cool.
Sure.
Like Cobra Commander with that mirrored face.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That is awesome. And I don't know, I'm 4, 5, 6 years old. I don't know what a ruthless terrorist organization is. I just know that he's blue.
Right. Yeah, blue with the face
he's
shield.
Blue, and he's got pockets. He's got
his pockets.
His gun sticks on his back like a backpack. That's awesome. I mean, really, like you're not thinking about that. You're like good guys, bad guys. Okay, the blue guys against the green guys, whatever.
Well, look at both of our fascination with the mercenary, who is exactly what we're talking about, Boba Fett, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be good, could be bad, don't know, but you end up liking them. Conan's a great example. Not a good person.
No, not at all a good person. But you know, again, they kind of show his backstory, and you realize exactly why he's not
like
a good person.
Right, yeah.
But, yeah, you think about it, it's like, oh, he's, like, Superman kind of ruins it for everybody, because everybody's like, okay, here's this symbol of good, and then you got Conan, they're like, dude, they cut off my mother's head.
Right.
As she was holding my hand. There is no law.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get you.
It's how you get the Punisher and all these characters that are a lot darker. Well, Batman and as just as well. I mean, he's a little mentally warped because of what he witnessed as a kid, and there you go. You run with it. So yeah, it's funny how we are drawn to those. I mean, and they become the heroes, man. You know, I named a show after a bad guy, right? The Hail Ming, you know, Ming the Merciless. I mean, he's a bad guy, but you love to hate him, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and in some of these, in some cases, you almost kind of hope they win, which is weird. It's a weird story retelling because it's like, okay, maybe they're the bad guy, but I read this book about Genghis Khan. Like Genghis Khan is, my God, that was 1,000 years ago, really.
Right?
You know, like and he's still
we saw
Darth Vader.
We saw an exhibition on him back in Nashville back in the 90s, and it was, I mean, when you realize what that guy did, how much land it's just like, holy smokes.
He's one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a lot of followers.
Yeah.
But they were all just hanging around, doing their thing, and he's like, hey, let's go that way.
Yeah.
And just kill everybody we see.
Yeah.
Like, because that's a phenomenon that actually happens. It's not fantastical. It really happens.
Yeah.
And you know, Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, all these, like Alexander the Great, where they're just like, hey, I've got a really good idea. And there's not anybody next to them that says, hey, that's probably not a good idea. They're just like, I've got a really good idea. Let's go that way.
Your life expectancy back then was you were lucky if you made it to 20 years old. So, hey, if I'm staying alive and I'm with this guy and I'm getting food, hey, I'll follow you anywhere. Right.
Yep, I'm there. Like, I'm not gonna argue, but man, there's a few of those people that are just.
I used to be just enthralled with medieval times, growing up, till I got old enough to realize that there's no way I'd ever want to live then.
Yep, I mean, of course, that's the Back to the Future thing, the Bill and Ted thing. We're like,
absolutely.
Whoa, there's like. As comedic as it is, Bill and Ted basically kind of skirt around, and they're like grabbing random people who are in comfortable societies.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they land in medieval times, they're like, put them in chains and cut off their heads.
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an episode for sure.
I just spit on that good dead meat. I love Bill and Ted, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're making a new one, hopefully the COVID thing doesn't cancel that.
We'll see what happens there. That should be a lot of fun. Let's see what else. Hey, David Lopan. I mean, how can you not? I mean, the fact that you can just say David Lopan, and you automatically know, from Big Trouble in Little China. a great bad guy that you love. You love David Lopan. I mean,
he's the funny thing is he's nice.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember the name of the actor that plays him, but he's the guy who's ditching Seinfeld at the restaurant.
Yeah.
The way his voice is and stuff, and like he's the evil one, but he's also like Seinfeld able to, like the way his voice is.
Right.
He sounds like a nice guy. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, it's just that's your perfect, setup for a likable bad guy that you're kind of rooting for off to the side, Especially with the Three Storms, you got to love all that.
Dude, Scott and I did a Fresh Eyes, and we barely scratched the surface on Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah,
because well, first of all, it's a Carpenter movie that is highly underrated. It's a cult classic now, but like almost every minute of that movie can be discussed at length because of what it means and how weird it is and how great it is and how bizarre it is. And like, you've got like Jack Burton is not a hero.
Right.
Like at all. He's just along for the ride. He just showed up and played cards and kind of got like, I'll give you a ride, whatever. And then
he's Chief Brody.
Yeah. He's just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but holy crap. And like, when his time to shine is to shoot down all the ninjas and put the gun this way, and instead he just shoots it in the air, and they're
knocks
all like,
himself out. Yeah, it's fantastic.
But having read the script and Kurt Russell just like he's the star. I saw a promo shot for that movie, and it did not have Wang with him.
Yeah,
I was like, nope. Like he's got to have. Yeah, because Jack Burton's not the hero of that story.
Absolutely. And I think that leads to our fascination with the horror stuff. I mean, your heroes that you cheer for, everybody, for some strange reason, you love Freddy Krueger because he's the wisecracker. Even though he didn't start off that way, it's amazing what he became because it's exactly what we're talking about, that infatuation of you want to know more about him, but we ruin it because we make him too personable. And then the next thing you know, hey, we've hit the jackpot here because he's a good wisecracker. Oh, you can't hear me. That kind of thing. We love Jason, right? Expressionless machine, again. Kills you just as easily if he's just standing there not doing anything. Michael Myers, same thing. So it's incredible how you can see those influences of what we grew up with and why we are drawn to those kind of things. And that leads all the way up to, I was blown away when I went to theater and I saw Devil's Rejects because you end up caring for these three terrible people that get blown away in this Cadillac convertible at the end of the movie that deserve everything they get. And you don't want it to happen to them. That's mind-blowing.
I'm glad it worked on you. It did not work on me. I was like, okay, they're horrible. He invades the ranch and like kills all the the Fireflies run. I was like, get them. They suck. Like I don't care if they're good at cuddling after all of this. Like they've ripped off that dude's face.
Yeah.
Like and hung him on the wall. Like they're like, this is bad stuff. Like I didn't play in that. I was like, okay, I see where you're going with it, but I don't shoot them. These guys suck.
It's that thing though. It's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Part 2. You've added a touch of human to these people, and you end up kind of liking them to a certain degree. Well,
I'm all about liking them.
Yeah,
like Jason Voorhees is one of those like. I talk about Jason, I talk about Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th, I think the reason I talk about them so much is because he scared the bejesus out of me.
Sure.
When I was a little kid, like, and the thing was, I could not understand why.
Right, yeah.
Why would you just kill people for no reason? Like, what's...
Yep.
Tell me why, and maybe I'll care, or like maybe I'll be less afraid, but it didn't matter.
It builds up in your mind even bigger than it really is.
It became like it really just scared the hell out of me. Yeah. And then later, I even talked to Kane Hodder. I was like, oh my God, dude, when I was growing up, I was so scared that you would just come through my window. He's like, well, I never killed a kid. He's like, Jason never killed a kid. And it was fun. I was like, okay,
not that he didn't try.
It's like, fair enough, Kane Hodder, who started in part 7.
Right.
But C.J. Graham, who was Jason in part 6, he had a moment where he was about to slaughter an entire bunch of children.
A whole room, yeah, a whole cabin full of kids.
And then he got distracted. Jason Part 2.
Yeah, Part 2,
slaughtered a dog.
Yep.
Like, slaughtered all the teenagers, whatever, but also killed the dog. And then, like, we don't, Part 3 was Part 3, but then Part 4. Like, yeah. It's like,
Jason Corey Feldman.
Pretty ruthless.
Yeah. And that's what the tall man was for me from Phantasm. Because it's that same thing. There's no reason why. Because he's chasing a kid through the whole thing. Even though people are dying left and right, he's after this kid and there's no real explanation why. That got to me because I was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something, just like what you're saying, when you don't understand why they're after him, the purpose, and then you put an expressionless figure to that, it's every kid's nightmare.
Kick it back to Jaws. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Bruce is probably my ultimate, like, I studied those sharks. Yep. We said earlier, I studied those sharks. Man, mako sharks are fast.
Oh, yeah.
Bull sharks are mean. Yep. Hammerhead sharks kind of bounce back and forth. Great whites are opportunistic.
Just eat
like,
machines.
And then you watch Jaws and you see him hit Alex Kinter.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just some kid who wants to go out for one last run on his little thing. And just gone.
And that's probably another reason why you're such a Jason fan, because Jason is just Jaws on land. That's all it is.
And so am I rooting for Jaws? Kind of. Because whenever that dock gets pulled down, whenever they're trying to catch the shark and the dock gets pulled down and those guys are swimming, of course I'm up here like this because, like, I don't want them to get eaten, but at the same time I kind of do.
Right.
Because in Jaws 2, whenever the shark hits the boats and knocks the kids in the water, and the one girl like throws Sean Brody up onto the boat, and then the shark comes up and like snaps her back and like pulls her under. I'm like,
There's
I'm kind of rooting for the shark, but man, that is rough.
And you even hear him talking about the second movie. They made him out to be more of like a serial killer kind of thing, because it's that's kind of the whole mentality. But we're gonna have to do a show on Jaws. There's no doubt. the whole set
have to.
But
even part 4, dude. I saw that thing in the theater. Like I saw Jaws: Revenge with the whole roaring shark. Like, what is?
Yeah.
My wife's favorite movie is Jurassic Park, and I swear, dude, she's all about the dinosaurs. We're talking about the villains.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt.
We saw a meme the other day. It was talking about like, oh well, you got, the state wants to reopen and it's blah, 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 blah. But let me remind you that Jurassic Park opened 5 times.
Right.
Okay. So my wife has seen those movies, all of them. All of them. She's seen movies I haven't. I didn't realize there was a part 5 or whatever. She's like, yeah, it was. And she's like, you realize, because what was the re-release one that came out like a couple of years ago? It wasn't the sequel. It was the Jurassic World.
Jurassic World, yeah.
And it's all modern and everything.
Yeah.
She's like, you realize that if they ever do this, we're going to be like the first people in line, right? I was like, dude, those 5 movies or 10, however many movies do not tell you that that's not a good idea. She's like, you still want to go cage diving with sharks? I was like, yeah. She's like, we'll be in line at Jurassic Park. I don't care. I will take the risk to see the dinosaurs. I'm there.
Wow.
Well, I'll be there with you, babe. We're there. I'm cool.
What about and I'm just throwing this one out there, but Tim Curry in Legend. That's a pretty major bad guy that you can't help but just be blown away by.
He looks awesome, but whenever it comes down to it, he kind of gets his ass kicked easily.
Well, he's fighting over a unicorn horn, so how bad can you be, right? I mean, but still, it's that thing of the embodiment of total darkness, right? That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
It's just one of those images that just stands out in my mind.
Tim Curry in just about anything.
Sure.
I mean, that's fun. You mentioned Tim Curry because of it. The clown.
Oh yeah.
The clown thing has taken off a lot recently, and I guess 4 or 5 years. The Poltergeist clown scared the hell out of me.
Oh yeah.
And then Tim Curry's clown, I did enjoy the It movies that just came out recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing on that little doll sitting on that chair in Poltergeist.
Yeah.
It's funny because if I thought about this, okay, you got the Stephen King It movie. You got the Stephen King It movie. Little doll, 45-second sequence.
Yeah.
Scarier than both of those movies combined.
Yep. To this day,
together.
My wife absolutely is terrified of clowns, and it's because of Poltergeist. Not even a real clown.
Uh-huh. Just a little doll. Just going to wrap himself around your neck and pull you onto the bed.
Yeah. While you're chewing on a Luke Skywalker.
my daughter, she's like, hey, can I watch Terminator? No, you cannot watch Terminator. I'm like, I almost kind of want to show her Poltergeist just so I can put her in her place. Because I was 8 or 9 years old when that movie came out. And that was a rough.
Oh yeah. That'd make her want to chill out for a little bit before she decides to tackle another movie.
And that's weird because that's a Steven Spielberg movie. That's a Tobe Hooper movie, but
that's questionable, right? Could be Tobe Hooper, but it really don't smell like Tobe Hooper at all.
Mm-mm.
It's almost like, I want to put your name on here because I'm Steven Spielberg and I'm not supposed to make legit scary movies. So let's put your name on here, but I'm still going to do most of it.
Yep. I mean, as a director, what are you going to do? You're sitting there making a movie, and then one day Spielberg shows up and says, "Hey, I want to shoot a few scenes. Why don't you go have some lunch?"
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna argue with that. You're the guy who made Jaws.
That's right.
In spite of everything. So.
But at the same time, Texas Chainsaw, man. I mean, Tobe Hooper, when he does it, it's big. Yeah, man. I mean, even Salem's Lot, man. You can't tell me, the scenes in Salem's Lot, they just stand out. Talk about another bad guy. Barlow.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified me.
He killed the kid's parents right in front of him.
Yeah.
Smashed their heads together.
But not near as scary as that kid floating outside the window, man.
Mm-mm.
That's nightmarish to me.
There were so many things. Going back to Jason Voorhees, I remember laying in my bed, and the way my bed was situated, it was up against a window. So bed up against the wall, window. well placed knife comes through window.
Oh, right in the head.
Right into my heart.
Right.
And remember the old Simpsons where Homer built him the clown bed. He's like, can't sleep. Clown will eat me. Clown. I remember being asleep, being like, if I go to sleep, this dude's gonna. Man, it gave me panic attacks. I was miserable because I couldn't sleep because this window was there, and then finally, it is maybe just shock. I don't know, call it whatever you want. Okay, if that knife is going to come through that window, it's going to come through there whether I'm awake or not.
Right.
So I have to sleep. I have to sleep. I have to go to sleep.
Yep.
There's nothing I can do. That guy is so big and I'm so little. If he decides to stab me, then I'm stabbed.
Right.
Finally, I was like, and I think that was kind of my journey back into horror, because I'm like, okay, well, if I'm gonna get taken out, then I'm taken. There's nothing I can do. I'll stand on the roof and box Jason Voorhees and punch my head off into a dumpster. I'll just leave.
Oh. Good stuff.
So you were probably a little bit older. So did you have play with Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joes? You were probably
those were too little for me.
Okay.
I grew up with the $6 Million Man, Evel Knievel, Shogun Warriors. That was kind of my jam. All the Mego dolls back in the time, the Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, all those that came in the cardboard box, But yeah, after that kind of was past where I was. I was already, into bands and, buying docking cassettes by the time.
Nice.
By the time He-Man came out, I was already becoming a miniature metalhead.
Yeah. I probably would have been too. If I could go back in time and just be like, can I absorb all of this? But we were talking about the bad guys to identify with. So there was the G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And there was Storm Shadow, who's the ninja.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just you saw my my anniversary gift from my wife, which is a butterfly knife.
Yeah. That's awesome.
She was like, what do you want? I was like, I want one of these, but it's got to be legit. I've got my old pocket butterfly knife that I used to have when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I found it in a box somewhere at my mom's house. I was like, awesome. I was like, oh wait, modern people make butterfly knives? Okay, cool. I want one of those.
Yeah.
So now I have two butterfly knives. One I've had for 30 years, and then one I've had for a week. But then also Soundwave. Soundwave, the Transformer was.
Oh yeah, it was a popular one.
He was the cassette. He was the.
Mm-hmm.
So. They did this thing with Soundwave and Megatron where when they transformed, they got big. So, Soundwave was a Walkman.
Right.
And when he transformed, he was 30 feet high.
Yeah.
And as a little kid, you're like, I I'm not really good at math, but
It's not really a
that would have been.
Walkman if it's 30 feet tall. I'm just saying.
I just used to remember like that would have been one heavy ass Walkman. Like if it's gonna unfold into something that's that big, like
Yeah.
but yeah, all the bad guys, the ninjas, the darkness, the warriors.
Well, again, that's why we were drawn to all the ninja flicks, right? We wanted to be a ninja. I mean, you wanted that mystique of the coverage of being skilled at something, but also having the secrecy, the unknown, right? That's all that appeal of the bad guy.
Yep. And I think if I could go back in time and change things, I would have been one of them. I would have been a bad guy. I would have just gotten really good at karate and put on a black outfit and just been a bad guy. Like, I don't know what I would have done for a living. I would have, whatever it was would have been bad. Would have just been evil. You think about like, oh, these guys are out there making heavy metal and it's just for evil, and you think about these guys that are just like living in a trailer, just being like, I just want to make rock and roll. I don't know. But yeah, I would have made evil. I would have been evil. Evil would have been my name. I would have chosen evil.
I probably would have meld them together because I'd probably be in like Sammy Kerr's band, right?
Right.
Not necessarily be Sammy because we know how that ends. I mean, you burn up
Right.
to death. But probably be in his band and be like, yeah, I'm with the evilest dead rocker in history. So, hey,
I'm the worst.
The Kiss thing, right? The whole Kiss appeal was the mystery and the scary. They're kind of scary, but they're kind of cool. Just like everybody we've just been talking about. It's that appeal.
So in the end, man, your favorite guys. Mine's gonna have to be Darth Vader, Boba Fett. I mean, Boba Fett was me coming up. Darth Vader came out when I was like 2. Boba Fett when I was like 5. So Darth Vader and Boba Fett are my all-time ever baddest guys. Boba Fett was always kind of like, where you don't know where he's at.
Right.
Maybe a gray character. But then in my age, I was hit with Megatron, Cobra Commander, Skeletor. These guys were not good guys.
Yeah.
Maybe stupid, but not good. So, but they also had all the best armor. They had the best weapons. I joked online the other day. It's like, well, say what you want about Cobra, but at least they put masks on their guys. Because if you look at the G.I. Joe guys,
yeah,
you're like, okay, well, there's gonna be some explosions here. The Cobra guys were like, put on. All our guys are in respirators. G.I. Joe guys are just, hey,
dudes. Yeah,
I got a helmet. I got a helmet on. But yeah, it's like, I think we.
Yeah, what good is it if you don't have a good bad guy, right? I mean, that's in any story. They're there to make the good guy even better.
Mm-hmm.
And it all matters about how bad your bad guy is or how good your bad guy is.
And I think all bad guys should be Christopher Walken.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, just weird enough and quirky enough to make it pay off no matter what he's playing.
You just love him until he starts shooting up guys who are digging a hole for him.
Right.
What? So I think after the entire hour-long episode, we've just decided Christopher Walken is the best bad guy.
That's pretty much in a nutshell, yeah.
I don't know, man. I just work here.
So yeah, I mean, make sure everybody listening, I mean, post it on the Facebook page, on Twitter, Instagram. Who's your favorite bad guys? Who's your favorite villains? If you could aspire to be a bad guy, which is a totally bad promotion that we're doing here, but if you could be a bad person, who would it be?
Dude, next week we're going to talk about frogs or something. Like, we might talk about Sesame Street. You really don't know. Even Sesame Street had bad guys. Oscar the Grouch is a pretty good villain.
Absolutely.
So, check in the comments. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We may or may not agree with you, but we'll just not respond to that message. So just be like, oh, whatever, But yeah, this has been You Know What's Awesome. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.